It is a very important week for the Ottawa Senators. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. Sam Cosentino joins me, and I'm Carolyn Cameron. Sam, with the draft lottery on Friday, the Sens have a combined chance, 25%, to land that number one overall selection. How big of a week is this really for the Senators, not just for the next year, but just for the franchise looking forward?
Well, no question, it's huge. But Pierre Dorion, I think, did an absolutely brilliant job in acquiring all the picks. He had to move some pieces out, maybe some guys that weren't necessarily going to re-sign for money reasons or for other reasons. And in doing so, the acquisitions he made have simply been fantastic. So, of course, this is going to be hugely important for the franchise moving forward. But when I look at their club now under DJ Smith, I love what they have coming. It starts in goal. There's a plethora of goaltenders that they have available to them. Then you move to the defense. You talk about Eric Brandstrom, who's maybe a little bit later to arrive in the scene than some people have thought. You have Jacob Bernard-Docker, was a big piece of Canada's World Junior Gold last year. You got Lassie Thompson, their first pick last year, was over in Finland, and really no one knew what he was up to. But there's a lot of good things with each of those three players. And then you look at their forward group. Josh Norris, unbelievable year in the American Hockey League. Drake Batherson has had a lot of sniffs back and forth. He's about ready to burst on to the steam full time. Alex Formanton up front. So you're talking about a plethora of prospects at all three positions. And that really opens up things for Pierre Dorion when it comes to what happens Friday, regardless of whether or not they win the first overall pick.
Okay, so hypothetically, just because it is fun, and as I mentioned, they have the highest percentage, the best chance in the league of landing that first overall pick. Alexis Lafreniere, he is a franchise-changing player, isn't he?
Yeah, I really like what this guy brings to the table. And I think when you watch him, everyone's looking for that dynamic element of his game to jump out. But he doesn't handle the puck at high speed like Connor McDavid. He doesn't skate like the wind like Nathan MacKinnon. But he brings each of those elements to the table. And it's funny because he compares himself to Patrick Kane. So in his self-evaluation, which he's pretty good at, he knows he's got really good hands, really good visions. So there's some Patrick Kane in there. Yes, he can play at top speed, no problem there. But he adds some of that physicality to the mix as well and makes players around him better, which is something that we don't often hear that terminology used when you're discussing a winger. So he has the ability to impact the game in a lot of different areas, power play, penalty kill. And I think when it comes to Alexis Lafreniere, again, if you're looking for that dynamic one element to jump out, it won't. But it's the totality of his game that I think is supremely impressive about this player.
And then what's interesting is if the Ottawa Senators do select first overall, they still have an opportunity to pick up the number 2 or the number 3 spot because they'll still either have their pick or that San Jose pick from the Erik Karlsson deal. They'll really define how the top of the draft happens, won't they, if they get that first or even second overall pick?
No question about it. And I think that even extends into number 3. So let's just assume for a minute that they win the first overall pick and they go with Lafreniere. At that point, because they have such depth at all 3 positions, they might want to look at addressing the defense. And so if we look at this draft typically, let's talk about Lafreniere at the top. Let's look at Byfield or Stützle, 2 and 3, however you see that going. And then you start to get into the conversation about Jamie Drysdale, about Jake Sanderson. So those 2 defensemen would look to be in that 4 to 6 range. And now if you're looking at the Senators picking 2 of the top even 4 picks or 2 of the top 3 picks, you're probably looking at addressing a forward, either Byfield or Lafreniere or Stützle, and then addressing a defenseman as well. And the 2 likely candidates there are Drysdale and Sanderson. But I do really think that once Ottawa's draft pick is determined, that they are really going to have a big say in what happens in the next 3 or 4 picks. So that's going to be really a lot of fun to watch. And hey, let's just say they get 1 and 2. I mean, that would be awesome. I mean, it would be an amazing story to talk about.
This is where it's fun or stressful if you at home are doing the lottery simulators. But just, Sam, to finish off, as you said, based on the youth that they have under DJ Smith right now, and regardless of really where they get to pick early on in this upcoming year's draft, this isn't a full-on rebuild for the Ottawa Senators, right? This could happen faster than some may assume.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, all 3 of those guys that we talked about, I mean, Brandstrom, he's got NHL games under his belt. Formanton, NHL games under his belt. Norris towards the end of the year. Batherson. So getting a sniff of what DJ Smith is all about. And there definitely has to be exposure to that element of it, because he coaches hard. He expects the most out of his guys. He expects maximum effort. When you hear him talk, the one thing that he's very intent on, even with a team last year not expected to do much, that he wants the opponent to know that they've been in the game with the Ottawa Senators. And that's going to be carried through as the talent base builds, as the skill builds in that lineup. You're going to see skill, playing hard, being competitive. You marry those three elements together, and I think you got a team here that's not too far from being a contender in the Eastern Conference.
Well, and on Friday, we'll see if all that hope in our nation's capital comes to fruition. Sam, appreciate it.
Yeah, can't wait.